us each Saturday for the Justice is Here podcast, an innovative, revolutionary podcast that speaks to justice for all party members across America. We'll speak to leadership, we'll speak to activists, and most of all, we want to hear your opinion. So if you're tired of the two-party system and how it doesn't work for you, tune into this podcast to learn how we can take back the justice that we deserve. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 6. 6 episodes of the Justice is Here podcast. I'm going to let my guest introduce himself here in just a moment. But guys, we've got a lot of bills to pay. So I'm going to rush through these, but there are some I want you to pay attention to, such as the Justice for All website. Please visit the Justice for All website at justiceforall.us. That is justiceforall.us. That is the official website of the official Justice for All party. That is where you will find the platform, volunteer information, donation information, etc., etc. Also subscribe to the channel. 1,000 subscribers is our goal. We are at 337. So if you could hit that subscribe button, you'll get notifications about when this podcast goes live. I would greatly appreciate it. Once I figure this out, how to get clips on TikTok, I will be great, but we still have a TikTok page, so you can follow the Justice is Here podcast at TikTok. You can follow Justice is Here podcast on Blue Sky. Also on Instagram. And special announcement, the Saturday Hangout is coming up. This date is coming up pretty soon, March the 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will meet every fourth Saturday following this show. We'll discuss, debate, and organize, but you have to register for the meeting because I'm not just letting anybody in. So you can follow that registration link. And finally, mark your calendars. Mark it now, mark it now, mark it now. April the 19th at 8 o'clock p.m. I am sponsoring. I have my own team, Tracy, on Justice for All party team. We are trying to raise $25,000. So we will be hosting a Song Association fundraiser. It's going to be a lot of fun. Any contribution from $5 to $5,000 is appreciated. And anybody that registers between today and April the 18th will get a link to that fundraiser. Please, please, please participate. Mark it on your calendars now. And with all those announcements, I will now let my guest introduce himself.
All right. I've marked it down, Tracy. I'm on. Thank you so very, very much for having me on, Tracy. My name is Jim Vredos. I'm a sociologist, criminologist. I taught for over 25 years at John Jay College of Criminal Justice, and as well as Yeshiva University here in New York City. I've been an activist my whole life. I have been involved in the Justice for All party since its inception. So let me just stop there. We can take it from there. I've been involved in a lot of. Let me also just mention that I do host the Radical Imagination cable television show on Manhattan Neighbor Network here in New York, and that gets quite a play all around the country and all around the world. So I'd love to have you on at some point too, Tracy, the next month or two, hopefully.
Like I said before, you give me the date. If I can make it, I am there in the building or the podcast world. Remember to hit that like button on the way in. Thank you, Rue, by the way, for checking in. And of course, I forgot to say, help us to get 35 likes and 15 shares. It's the goal of this podcast to get the message of the Justice for All party out there. And you can help us by liking this and sharing this. Share it with your friends, your enemies, your neighbors, your cousin, that person down the street you haven't talked to in 5 years. Doesn't matter. Just share, 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 share. So, as you all know, my questions are always sporadic, but I'm really trying to get better about this. Um,
You're terrific. I'll go wherever you lead.
um,
I'm with you.
I want to talk about first why, because I'm just assuming you were a supporter of Dr. West's,
Yep.
wrote his name in on election day like I had to. Why did you choose to vote for Dr. West?
Well, it's just a natural. From the very beginning of my adulthood, I've been involved. From dating myself here in the 60s. I was involved in Vietnam Summer. I was involved in anti-war movements, civil rights movement. I happened to be involved at Columbia University in the takeover of some buildings at that point. I've continued on throughout my life, being involved as an academic and as an activist, and known Cornell many, many years, and listened to him for in a talk at Riverside Church. It was in 2010, 2011, and where he called for a group of us going up to Harlem and protesting stop and frisk policies that the New York Police Department was involved in at that time. And I just naturally fell into that. That was a natural. That was something I wanted to be involved in. My own students at John Jay educated me about what was going on in their communities as they were harassed and hassled and unfairly thrown up against the wall and so on and arrested. And so since then, again, Cornell and I have deepened that friendship, that camaraderie. The camaraderie. In fact, he was on my first Radical Imagination show, so I was blessed to have him on, I guess. And we were also involved in a demonstration and trial up in Harlem, in which we made an impact. We really did have an impact on the narrative that was going on in New York City at that time concerning stop and frisk. So I've been around for a while, and the same issues were going on as a kid. When I was a kid, it was still, again, the two-party system, and it was Tweedledee and Tweedledum. The same problems kept going on for the past 50 years or so, and so on. So when Cornell calls for this Justice for All Party and the platform, what it stands for, and what he has stood for so many years, it was just a natural. I was sick and tired of listening to the same old politicians, to see the same issues and problems festering and metastasizing even more over the years. And we are at the point where we need to all join together here, because, as you pointed out, the two-party system in this country has utterly failed.
You know, I should change that introduction to the uniparty. Because
Okay.
if you think about it, and here comes my first question. If you think about it, they're literally the same party. You have Trump announcing his cuts to Medicaid. Yeah. Biden also cut Medicaid. Biden literally kicked, what was it? At least 10 million people lost Medicaid benefits under Biden. Of course, the Democratic Party wants us to forget that. They both fund Israel to no end. The military-industrial complex keeps getting more and more and more money. I can't figure out why people can't see that they're the same party. And that's probably where I need the most help at, because I'm like, it's right there. They're the same.
Yeah, but there are periods of time, particularly when there are demonstrations or people out in the street, that they can be pushed to a certain extent to offer certain reformist policies, throw a few programs here and there, and that seems to make a difference to people. There's also, I think, a memory here of what Franklin Roosevelt attempted to do. But again, with the New Deal, the Great Society, again, what people don't really understand, I think they need to, understand the harsh realities of power arrangements in the society, that when these elites, these political elites, I agree with you, it's basically the same, but when these political elites do respond, they respond to the pressures and demonstrations from ordinary, everyday people who develop the courage, integrity to go out there and really speak their mind and push the system to make whatever accommodations it can.
Yep. Now, I have to ask this question because I did not catch Elon Musk's address to Congress. Didn't catch it. I didn't even know there was to be a State of the Union. So people out there asking me, am I going to do a show on it? No, because me listening to Trump talk, I can only take like maybe 10 minutes and I'm done, because he just goes on and on and on and on and on. So I can't, I just can't hear him speak. I won't do a show on it. But apparently there was a point where a congressperson was expelled from the halls because of his outrage. Representative Al Green.
From Texas.
Two questions. One, where was he at when Biden was making cuts to Medicaid? Because nobody's asked him that question. And second, I think a lot of this is performative, right? And I'm not sure what question I'm asking here. There's blue, here it is. There's blue MAGA, which I think is way worse than red MAGA. Red MAGA to me is like, they'll dismiss Trump. Blue MAGA is just like, yeah, we're okay with genocide. It'll get worse if Trump gets in. So you're excusing the genocide that happened under Biden. I don't know what question I'm asking.
I get you. Both parties are fear-based. They create different fears at different times to manipulate and divide people and pit us against each other and so on. That wasn't a State of the Union. That was a campaign speech that you didn't listen to, that I somehow listened to.
You did on my condolences. Oh my goodness.
Mine too, but yeah, I agree. But the representative from Texas further explained in a post that he got up there basically and put his cane up and was shouting, and so they didn't have a mandate, and the mandate was to not cut Medicaid. He didn't have a mandate to do that. And he further explained that, and he felt that he needed to say that and make sure that was out there. But you're right. Where was he when it really counted? And I think, again, you're answering your own question, the need for this uniparty or a party that really is rooted in vulnerable people, the disenfranchised, working people, right? The poor, middle class. And that's where we've got to start, not from some sort of professional political elite who speaks down and only is adept at manipulating us because their primary concern is to get elected and reelected.
That's their whole thing. I mean, just want to make sure I'm reminding everybody, mark your calendars, April the 19th, 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make your donations now at Team Tracy Justice for All. But anyway, what I guess I'm trying to get to is this, and you clearly laid out the difference between the Justice for All party. But what I want to get to is this, and I'm going to play Debbie the Downer. I'm going to play the opposite.
I love that character.
There's already the Green Party, the PSL Party, the Socialist Party, I'll throw in DSA just to be fair. Although they're Democrats, why do you believe that there's another party needed?
Well, let me put it this way. I am from a mixed religious background and cultural background. I've always thought of myself as someone, since I was a kid, stood up for people that were being bullied and so on. As a spiritual person, I did not go to church or synagogue. So I think what was really lacking in the left, in progressives, and in all political spheres, except really in the Justice for All Party, is this element of radical love. Now, let me just also mention that for 30 years, I ran uh, meetings, weekly, well, almost weekly meetings with the New York City Tikkun group. Now, I should say I did do that for 30 years, but my relationship and friendship with Rabbi Michael Lerner, who was the editor of Tikkun magazine, was a close one. I wrote a lot of articles for Tikkun. Cornell and Michael were collaborators on a terrific book, Blacks and Jews, Let the Healing Begin. And I used that book when I was teaching at Yeshiva University, okay, which is modern or Orthodox Jewish university, basically. I taught the criminal justice courses, and I'm going to get to the answer. And set up their internship programs in criminal justice and so on. And you'd be surprised how that book really impacted on those yeshiva students. And so when Cornell and Michael turned to a use of the words tikkun olam, healing the world, how do we transform it? It can speak to all people because we all have our painful, traumatic experiences, whether it's personally, whether it's our ancestors, our relatives, and so on. So, to be very transparent about this, I would say over the last 15, 20 years or so, I've gradually become more and more influenced by that spiritual progressive perspective. And I believe, as Cornell puts it, the force that can win this battle against the corruption, the brutality, the exploitation, is radical love. So I have tried to develop that within my classroom, within my own life, and my own activism. I, for example, have had many, many shows on political, spiritual progressives. And a couple of the more recent ones that I've been so very happy to have on is groups of Palestinian and Israelis working together in a peace movement. There are on both sides, there are elements. And these are the people we need to work with, I think. These are Palestinians who have been in Israeli jails, and they have come out and have worked with Israeli soldiers who are in the Israeli Defense Forces and have, worked and decided to work together, that the military violent actions weren't bringing us any place. So this is the sort of people that I think this party can attract, that Cornell's attracted throughout his life, and that I feel I would like to add my whatever I can in terms of energy and knowledge, hopefully, and integrity to that battle.
Yep. And everybody remember to tell somebody we are live. We are live in the house.
Yes, I'm live.
We do have some other hold on a second. I'm gonna get to the comments in here in just a moment. But I want to ask another question because I talked about this last week with my guest. Because I don't know if you find yourself in this predicament yourself, and you can talk about it at length. But I find myself in a situation as though part of me says with Trump, you know what? Just what you get, America. You voted for this foolishness. You should have voted for Dr. West. Ha ha ha. But then there's another part of me that says, I don't want to see people lose Medicaid. I don't want to see people lose Medicare. I don't want to see almost 1 million people, federal workers, losing their jobs.
Yep.
And I don't know how to quite balance it, because elections, to me, they have consequences.
Yep.
This man literally told you what he was going to do. No plan for the economy, no plan for job creation, no plan, nothing. Just, I'm going to cut the government. Either people thought he wasn't really going to do it, or they just kind of said, oh, well, it won't affect me. But I don't know where I can be the most useful at. And I don't know if that's what you're feeling.
Yeah, I have the same feelings. I remember in 1968 talking to somebody after Nixon was elected or whatever, and saying, "Oh, that's great. That's good. That'll bring down even more totalitarian corruption and so on, and people will finally realize and will suffer." And something struck me as wrong there. We should. Plus, this was a grad student who wasn't going to be that affected as the millions of people were. So that didn't strike me as being right, the right way to turn. And so the way we need to turn, I think, is to show these alternatives and speak these narratives over and over and over again, and trust the goodness of humanity to reach out to them, and they will respond, or many or most will. I have to believe that. I want to believe that. And that's our hope. Now, there's people you're not going to reach. That's it. You can't, they're too far gone. The idea of trying to redeem individuals, or redeem a party, as you know, Dr. West talks about the fact that the Democratic Party is beyond redemption.
Oh no, they're dead. They're gone. I mean, I just
want dead. You can be redeemed, right?
I don't think they're beyond redemption. They're gone.
All right, okay.
To me,
I get you.
Now,
so we got to build anew, as Reverend Barber would say, right?
Absolutely.
Brick by brick. And another person I admire tremendously as well. And but notice, Reverend Barber, works with who he can work with in the and so it's tricky. It depends, as I think Cornell pointed out in the show you did, and I love that show. I love your show with Anahitha as well. I've got to catch up on a couple others, but they're terrific. These are terrific shows you're putting on, and I commend you so much. It's really interesting. We do the best we can to appeal to our better angels, you will. As King would say, you don't get down in the mud with these people and act like them. It's not going to make it better. On the other hand, you don't just roll over here. You've got to forcefully, in a militant way, stand up and speak out and do what you can and bear the consequences, as you pointed out. And hey, I've paid a couple of dues myself, but it's a small price to pay.
Your answer is so much better than mine. Your answer is so much better than mine. Because here's how I feel. I feel like, and I feel this way about the Republican Party too. They're MAGA. They've been out to discuss. I didn't even talk about the Republican Party. Now I just say MAGA. It's like you're gone. That's it. You cease to exist.
But they're not. But Tracy, yes, I understand, but they are not gone. We have to deal with a certain reality here, and how do we work in some way to convince?
No, I'm not talking about Republican voters. I'm talking about the institution of the Republican Party. Like if I talk to a
I
Republican
agree with you. Yeah.
voter, yeah, I'm talking about institutions, not people. Because
And the Democratic Party as an institution.
right, as an institution, that's what I'm talking about.
Got
The institution of those, they're gone because they don't listen to their base. They don't. A Republican voter and a Democratic voter have a lot in common. They both want a good economy, good jobs, take care of their children, have good access to health care, right?
Absolutely.
The institutions are just like whatever AIPAC tells us, that's what we're going to do. So that's when I say the Democratic Party's dead, I'm not talking about the individual Democratic voter. I'm talking about the institution.
Understood.
Of those. That's what I'm talking about. So I wanted to make that clear. That's what I was talking about.
Right.
When I say they're beyond redemption, because you have Hakeem Jeffries basically saying, well, we're not in power. What are we supposed to do? I don't know your job. That would be, that might be, make some noise.
Or James Carville in his op-ed, but let's play a little rope-a-dope here and get hit on the ropes until we're exhausted, just like Muhammad Ali, and then we'll punch him out. I mean, that's just bizarro.
Yeah. So I'm like, no, you're beyond redemption. And now I'm gonna go to the comments. So Cousin Nelson, hello, how are you? The 2-time backstab.
Okay,
so,
Bernie.
Yes, Nelson and I are not Bernie fans, and this is why Nelson is going to be my eternal favorite play cousin. So the 2-time backstabbing Bernie Sanders recently using the issues with Trump and Elon Musk to try to regain popularity of the people to once again lead them back to the Democrats. That's exactly what I believe that they're doing. And he also says this is what I'm going to talk about right here. We need a candidate or candidates we can start getting behind as soon as possible to be ready by 2026 and 2028 without hesitation. Because you know the thing, and I said this today earlier, 2026, November 2026 is like really near. I didn't realize until I was like, oh, February, and somebody's like, no, Tracy, this is March. And I'm like, it's March?
Right. 2025. So yeah, we're getting there.
We got a little bit more than a year. Talk about, I don't know what you all backtrack. Is there a Justice for All Party of New York?
As I understand from Israel, we are developing it. We're supposed to be meeting in March. I'm available. I want to help in any way I possibly can.
Okay. So here's the thing.
I've been involved in a couple of benefits, and I want to do some more.
Yep. So this is just a general question. Sure. How do we convince? Wait a minute. Let me backtrack this question. So Rue, by the way, who keeps putting up Tracy 2026, I will not run for office. I'm telling you right now, I will not do it. I will not. Here comes the question of hypocrisy. How do we encourage people to run for office?
Whoa.
Under the Justice for All
banner. Yeah. Well, speaking as a lifelong New Yorker with a few years out in Denver and Denver Bronco territory, we won't get into the football. I know not now.
Not now. Maybe later, but
no. I understand. I think it's really an issue of how to get the narrative out there, the word out there, and that has to be in some way through the media. I mean,
no,
I got it. It's not going to happen.
The
alternative media, the social media, and so on. Voices like yours. I try to do what I can do on my show. I think once people really get that message, that's more than half the battle. I think you'll have people running to join the movement. And out of those meetings, we will have an organic leadership developing. I really believe that. I really do. I mean, again, one of the people that I was very privileged to have some contact with and was some interaction with was Tom Hayden, who, with his Port Huron statement that had an enormous impact, 1962, on developing the New Left. And he had many of the arguments we're talking about here about the two-party system. Now, that was written by less than 50 people. It started, right, the New Left movement in a sense, at least through this Port Huron statement, which really caught fire and captured the imagination of young people and others all around the country and the world. Now, whether mistakes or excesses, but it starts small and it can expand. And this is a message that is vital to everyone's understanding. They get it. They get it in their heart of hearts that this is the way to go, that the hate and the vengeance and the violence and pitting each other against each other, we've had enough of that. We've had hundreds and hundreds of years of that. And I'll speak to and believe me, I'm pretty alone here with my academic colleagues. They got to get off their academic rear ends and get out there and realize that, yes, they need to be as objective and thorough in their research, but they are public intellectuals and they are taking moral stands, whether they believe it or not, and they've got to understand the consequences of their research, that they should just be functioning as in their professions so they can get more and more journals and so on. That it's a lifestyle, it's a commitment. It's not just a vocation just to make money and to rise up in the academic circles. So I don't know if that's answering it, but I've been around long enough to know that these movements can have an impact. And they start from very few wonderful, committed, loving people. And it can happen. It has happened.
Absolutely.
The southern phase of the civil rights movement, a good example. And it takes a few, and the message is there. The people are really, you trust them. You know that they're not just, feeding you a pack of lies here. They're not just their egos here and so on. I still have faith in that.
And I 100% agree with you. I think, we need to get that message out in the media. But the other thing I hope that the Justice for All party emphasizes is that grassroots, door knocking, in your face, shake people's hands, touch people, get to where people are at type of activism. Because I think, with COVID, we had you can't be outside near, you got to stay 6 feet away from each other. And now we're kind of back to semi-normal. Well, not semi-normal, but we don't have that ban anymore. So we need to be engaged with the public more. Because when I talk about the Justice for All party to people, well, one, I get why don't you work within the Democratic Party? And I have my own answers to that. But I'm not going to get into that. That's a separate podcast. But essentially, the core message they agree with: money out of politics, advocate for the Palestinians, stop funding useless wars like the Ukraine war and the Israel war, and close it down. They agree with the core message. But I wonder how do we, I don't want to say dumb down. But make the message plain enough. That's the word I want to use. Plain enough where people will get, Oh, that's what she said. Because we use a lot of words like neo-fascism and milk toast. And when I say this to people, they're like, what are you talking about? Like what
What's
like
milk
it's
toast?
like way over their head. I'm like, oh no, I'm talking about this. Like this is I'm talking about they working your nerves. They taking your money. They're like I wonder how can we take the message, like you said, I don't want to say dumb down, but make it plain enough that anybody can get it.
Well, a couple of responses. You're absolutely right about the door to door, the hard work of organizing and getting people out there and so on and so on. Listen, give the devil his due. Trump does that. He reaches out in a way that he speaks plainly to people. He does.
Yes,
We
he
need
absolutely.
somebody like that in, and Cornell does that, and Heath could do that. Um, we need people, you're right, that can do that, not just some sort of academic treatise here. And I
Yeah,
mean,
because we got some words. I'm like, yeah, don't know, nobody knows what you're talking. When you say neo, if I say neo-fascism to you, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You'll know the context. You'll know it. If I say neo-fascism to my brother, he'll be like, "What are you talking about?" And then I got to go explain the whole thing.
well, someone that's oppressing you and trying to take things away and is full of
No, but
greed.
I'm saying, yeah, the terms that we're using is like,
I
why don't we
understand.
just say, yeah, they're trying to take your stuff away from you
Yeah,
instead of
that's right. That's what I'm
fascism?
saying.
And then I'm like, huh? No.
They're stealing stuff from you and taking it. I wrote a letter to the editor. What's his name? Musk. He's made $30 billion since the election. 30 billion. I mean, who's profiting here? I always ask people on the streets or from a campus, is this guy going to help you? Has your life improved? And they say no. So there's a ready population out there who's ready to join. They know it. They feel it. And I think it's not just bubbles here in Manhattan or Berkeley or something. It's all around the world. You're in Indianapolis here, right? Okay. It's plain speaking people, to the farmers, to the the
Yeah.
agricultural people, and the small fishermen, and so on, and the small shopkeepers. They know they're getting screwed, and but what are they going to do? That's what's happened also, by the way, in criminal justice. We have not listened to the people who are most affected by the system, because either we moralistically have ruled them out and dehumanized them, and they should get what they deserve, and solitary confinement and death penalties and so on, and people don't. I've taught in prison many years, Sing Sing in the women's prison, Bedford, so on, but people don't hear that, they don't see that unless they have a loved one or are in there themselves. Then they know what's going on. So we got to get that word out, and that what we're doing, and the academics need to point out that their creation and their policies have made things worse by and large. And it doesn't, yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. And it's not rocket science. Listen to the people who are most exploited and dominated. I did that when I was teaching at John Jay. I listened to my students. I was teaching early in the morning, class 8 in the morning, and a bunch of the guys would come in 20, 25 minutes late. After a couple of weeks, I said, all right, what's going on? They told me what was going on. They were being stopped and frisked and harassed and hassled. That's why they were late. I said, what the heck is going on here? And that's just fundamentally wrong. I was the only one at John Jay, the only professor that was out there protesting that, involved in the trial with Carl Dix and Cornell. But we made a difference. You do what you can. But you're absolutely right. Bring it down to earth and listen to the people the most affected.
It was so bad when someone would say milk toast, and I'm like, I literally spelled it MILK space TOAST. I literally thought that's how it was spelled. I'm looking at the how it's really spelled. I'm like, oh well, I got that wrong.
Tracy, listen, but this is our this is our love. This is our comrade. This is a term that Cornell uses to various audiences. He knows he can get down with it too, but I had to look it up too.
I had to look it up because I'm sitting there like, yes,
No.
I was like, oh, that's how you want. That's how you spell it. I knew what it meant. I knew exactly what it meant.
I wasn't sure I knew what it meant. Maybe.
Oh my goodness! When I wrote it out, I'm like, oh, well, sound it out. MILK space TOAST. Yep, that's it. Milk toast. No, that wasn't it. But I'm not saying that like elites think they're smarter, but I'm like, for me, I'm not very educated. I'm a college dropout. That's what I am.
Well,
I'm not
You're very bright and very intelligent. Yeah. No, you got it. You may not all know the flute and high flute.
If we're talking football or something like everyday stuff, yeah, I'm right there.
Well, not if I may for 10 seconds. I was looking at, where the history of the Indianapolis Colts, where do they come from?
Baltimore.
I know. Okay. Johnny Unitas, Ray Berry. And they played the Giants in that, what was that, the Ice Bowl or something, 1958, and they beat them.
Now, that was way before my time, but okay.
I know. Well, actually, I wasn't that old either, but okay. You're so right on. You're so right on, Tracy. And yeah, what can I tell you? Yeah. But yeah.
Go ahead.
No. Look, I studied with a fellow, my graduate, Richard Cloward and Piven, were the architects of the welfare rights movement. They listened to welfare recipients, okay? And they heard, they didn't just come in as experts here. We're going to fix things. We're going to tell you what you need. We're going to have these reforms. And what they did was they developed a welfare rights movement led by welfare recipients. Reverend Barber is also involved in this too. He's trying to do the same thing. So what came out of it, make the long story short, was the push toward a guaranteed annual income. You want reform, you got rid of welfare. Welfare was a tool, a vehicle to blame people and to say, oh, you're not working hard and you're shiftless, you're lazy. It's about knowing power arrangements. Who's controlling people's lives? That's what people understand. And being told that they have to do this, they have to do that. And when they straighten their back, and when you have a movement of progressives and justice for all people and academics and people pulling together, listening to these people, then you will have policies that benefit us all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I said I was done with my announcements, but I told a lot. So everybody out there that subscribe to this channel, this has been a busy weekend for me. I tape the show at 2:00. I tape this one at 7. Tomorrow it's a repeat. I'll tape at 2. We're going to be talking about the modern monetary theory. Yay. Because that's Stephen Grombine is going to I'm going to actually talk to him tomorrow. And then I'll be doing a show at 6. So I'm packing it all in. Just packing it all in, just to let everybody know I'll be back on tomorrow at 2. But I want to get back to making connections because I think that's so important. We're talking to people. There are people, you are absolutely right, that cannot be reached. I absolutely think Blue MAGA, they're just gone. It's gotten to the point I don't even post on Facebook that much about politics anymore because when I was coming out for my support for Dr. West, I got one of two things. Number one, I hate. You're just voting for Donald Trump. Really prove it. That's not a thing. I was voting for Dr. West, not Donald Trump. If I wanted to vote for Donald Trump, I would have voted for Trump, but I didn't. I voted for Dr. West. And this whole sense of, and you talked about it, fear. Like, well, if you don't vote for Harris, who there was literally no circumstance that I could have even imagined me saying, okay, this is how I'm going to vote. That, you have to vote this way or it's going to get much worse. Totally excusing your party set up the conditions to give us Trump. How do we avoid setting up conditions to give us Trump? We don't need any more Trumps at all. This should be the last. This should be it. Like, we should be done.
Yeah, well, we should be done, but we have a long ways to go here before we're done with this, and goes beyond a particular individual. I think what you're saying, Tracy, is that with a positive message, why did you vote for Dr. West? Probably the same reasons I did, pretty much. I think that a lot of people I know were afraid again. There's that fear that if their vote was going to be wasted, if they vote for Harris, then they got a chance to avoid Trump. They know that she wasn't that good, but it's the lesser of two evils again. So now we do have Trump. How to respond? You can't just wish him away. You can't wish away the millions of people that do support him. But what you can do is counteract his negativity, his hypocrisy, over and over and over again in whatever circles you're channeling. And that moving ahead will make that difference. Because again, as you were saying, 2026 is upon us. And these are failed policies. One thing these guys always seem to do, they go overboard. They don't know their power, their egoism goes so far that they don't know when to stop. So let's cut this, let's destroy this, let's do that. And they go so far where people have had it, no more. And they are going to be out, and they're going to be in for a surprise as more and more people are taking the streets and showing them that they're not going to take it anymore. Now, again, you're absolutely right. We've got to build that movement. We've got to build a party, and we've got to get out there with the hard work of organizing. But one of the first things is the narrative, changing the narrative. No, you're wrong, right? The militarism, the militarization of the police does not make us safe. Solitary confinement does not make us safe. Now, here's another little twist. It makes the jobs of the correctional officers even more difficult.
Right?
And stop and frisk and I've been told, cops have told me this in my class, it makes our job more difficult because whatever respect they try to have in the community is now wiped away. So we're all victims in some levels here. And so we've got to get that narrative to bring people together of very disparate walks in life to transform.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So we're going to go to more comments because apparently we got some more coming up here. Rude by Way MC says Nelson Ortega 2026 is what I think he's saying. H Patty says I do have a written schedule, but here's what I'm teetering with. I don't know whether I should start like a MailChimp kind of thing where people sign up, because I don't have a website, right? Because I can't afford my website anymore. So I have an apparatus where I can add people to a list and send out a schedule. So I have a schedule of my shows. I just don't have a way to make them public right now because I don't have a website and I don't have a way to engage. But I'll think about it. But like I said, I have it, but I don't know how to get it out there.
Actually, can't it be some way connected to the Justice for All website?
We are in works to connect this particular podcast
Yeah.
to the national. Yes, that part is in the works. But I think she's talking about, because I do other podcasts. I do the Tracy Show. I do what I call the Silly Saturday Show, where I just talk about anything. I think today I talked about the worst television shows I've ever seen. So she's talking about a list of every single thing I do. And so,
what's number one? I'm sorry.
There was this show called Hell, Honey, I'm Home. Sitcom about Adolf Hitler living next door to his Jewish neighbors. It's real. Look it up. That's all I'll say.
I never heard.
It was Hell, Honey, I'm Home.
What channel was this on?
It was a British comedy.
Really?
It was 1990. Oh, I looked this one up.
I'm going to look this up.
When you get off here, go to YouTube and just type in HEIL space Honey, I'm Home. You'll see why I'm like, this is it. This right here. Yeah. Who sits there? See, you gonna get me going off now. I'm like,
no. And if Musk was around, then he'd give his salute. By the way, did you know in Germany his so-called salute, Nazi salute, would not be allowed. It's illegal.
Yep, it's illegal.
It's illegal here.
But yeah, somebody genius thought, yeah, just make a sitcom about what? Yeah, that was my number one. I'm like that, and then Cop Rock, the cop show musical, number 2. I'm like, who sits around and thinks about this stuff? So you got to go back and watch it. But
I'll check that out.
But yes, to answer your question, I do have a written schedule. Then Nelson says, by being stuck and believing that there are only 2 choices and both are not getting things done, they feel desolation. I hope that's right. We need truth, justice, and love party agenda to help them. Absolutely.
So
people shouldn't feel stuck when they're born. When we were born, the DR said boy or girl, not Democrat or Republican. Wake up, everybody.
No, those are 2 great points. I mean, people feel
like this is it. This is all I can. Like, no.
Depressed. They feel they internalize it. They think they're alone. That and all kinds of things can happen there. Yeah. No, we've got to externalize that.
And
individual issues and collectively join with each other. I mean, you're not alone and you're feeling similar things. And we've got to keep the spirit alive.
Yeah, and I think when you said media, I want to say independent or alternative media, because legacy media is just trash. I came with them. I haven't watched CNN, I don't think, in like 15 years. Yeah. I think it's been that long since I actually, and MSDNC, oh my goodness. I know Dr. West has been on, like he's on CNN sometimes, he's even on Fox. That's like I didn't even watch CNN when he was on it. That's how much my beef is with them. I can't even watch when Dr. West is on there. They make me so angry because they know what they're doing, right? They know exactly what they're doing. And it just irks me that people, I'm like, why are you listening to them?
But Tracy, Dr. West knows what he's doing too.
He does. And like I said, he's more suited to run for office than that because I'm not suited.
Absolutely. Well, but I just want to say I'm on Manhattan neighborhood. That's public access. Okay. So that's the network that people from the community can come on and join and have their own shows and so on. And I try to do that as much as possible by having as many people from around the community as possible. So that's another, public access is one of those outlets, social media outlets that we can use.
Yeah, and I think it's so important because, there's so many halfway decent alternative medias out there, Tracy Media included, that would be loved to, that was one of my goals is once we start running offices, once we start doing, outreach and those type of things to feature that, because what I don't want us to turn into is this, and the Democrats are so good at this, it makes me absolutely cringe. They show up in the black church every time there's a presidential election. They don't show up. They don't show up any other time of year except for when it's election time.
Well, look at our mayor. Mayor Adams does that every time, and he's got what 20% approval rate, and there he goes to some black church in Brooklyn. And I'm with you. They're doing so. He's saying what they're doing to me is what they're doing to you. So he's a master at also distorting.
Yeah, there was a situation when Biden was still in the campaign. And yes, I did do a whole video about why I think he got out so late on purpose, but I'm not going to go into that because I think it was intentional. But when he was running, he spoke at an African Methodist Episcopal church.
Yeah.
And the protesters stood up. And the audience or the congregation starts chanting 4 more years. Are you kidding me? You're saying yes to genocide? Have you read your Bible? Like, did you even like peruse the pages? You're telling them as Americans they should not protest when a president comes to town.
Yeah. And
really,
those black churches, if I may, again, it's such a natural that they should have voted overwhelmingly for Dr. West.
It would have made sense because he's actually advocating for your issues, but you ignore it because you're going to vote for Harris. And yes, I'm going to say she was terrible, and I'm still happy that she lost. Ha ha ha! I don't care. I'm not sorry. Whatever you want to feel is how you feel. But when she said as vice president, I'm not here to do anything specifically for Black Americans, that should have been it. That should have been like, okay, I'm done. That's it. I'm done. I'm finished. What do you mean you're not doing anything?
Dr. West is flat out the closest thing we have to Martin Luther King running for president or leading a movement or advocating for poor and working people and exploited people in this country and around the world. That's it. I mean, and it's a given. It's a natural. So, at least I feel. Do you agree?
I would have said more like Huey Newton more than Dr. King, but
he's more like Huey Newton
to me. But I mean, I don't like comparing people because Huey Newton was Huey Newton, Dr. West is Dr. West, Dr. King was Dr. King, Malcolm X is Malcolm X. They all bring something. Right. You know, they all bring something different to the table. So I don't like necessarily comparing people, but if I was gonna do it, I'm like,
right. And of course, he was influenced a lot by the Panthers.
Right. Yeah. Right. It's because of the Black Panthers that we have school lunches. I bet most Americans don't know that, but that's why we do. This is a good question. Why do African Americans act like sheep to the slaughter when it comes to... If I knew the answer to this question, I would be so much better off. I would literally be, I can't figure it because as a person of African descent, as a Black person in America, let me just put it the way I put it. I tell people, hey, you need to leave the Democratic Party. They're not for you. They don't advocate for you. But that's all I've been. I've been Democrat all my life. I was Democrat. Well, unfortunately, I don't like to talk about those days, but I primarily had voted for Obama 2 times for some unknown reason. Unfortunately, I voted for Hillary. You couldn't tell me anything bad about the Democratic Party.
Well, your answer
was like once my eyes got open, they got all the way open. I'm like, oh, I see what this party is. Oh, now I see it. I don't know the answer to your question. It's a great question because it's like the evidence is literally in your face, and you keep voting for these people and voting for these people, and they're telling you.
You get used to it. Your parents did. Your grandparents. You know it's the devil. You know
that could be it, but you still have the devil. That's it. It's like the whole the lesser of 2 evils comment. Okay, if you take away, if both of these hands are evil, and I take this hand away, this is still evil. This hand is still evil. What are you like? What do you mean lesser? There's no lesser of two evils is what has led to over 250,000 Palestinians being dead. That's what it's led to. If you're comfortable with that, I'm not even gonna say I guess. We can't run in the same circles because it doesn't. I don't understand why Black people vote Democrat. Like now, I don't even get it. I don't understand it. I don't get it.
Well,
I don't. I wish I knew because
well,
I'm
perhaps
like,
going back to some of the politics in the '60s, again, with Kennedy, with Johnson, with the obvious push by King in the southern phase of the civil rights movement, the civil rights bill gets passed, voting rights gets passed. You had Bobby Kennedy again. Democrats,
they were doing something.
they were doing yes. So
They were
maybe
doing something. The Voters' Rights Act.
when was the last time Republicans really entered into that struggle? So I don't have to answer myself on this, but I think
Yeah, I just wish I knew because I'm like, okay, and it. Here's something. I'm going to make sure I say this at the next meeting of the Justice for All Steering Committee. If anybody in our audience knows, do Black people still have to have our voters' rights renewed every 25 years? I think the answer is yes.
that bill, yeah.
If so, Justice for All needs to be saying, no, we need these permanent, period. Because either you're a citizen or you're not a citizen. So if that's not the case, I'm going to be advocating, hey, put that on the ballot or on the platform, because that's one I'm like, wait a minute, this, and I think that's still the case. It's either every 25 years or every 35 years. But whatever it is, it shouldn't even exist, right? Because I was born in this country. I'm 18. I'm well over 18 years old.
Yeah.
I'm a citizen.
Yeah.
It's either you're going to treat me like a citizen or you're not going to treat me like a citizen. So I would hope that the Justice for All party like puts that in their platform. Yes, I'm suggesting it. Because I'm like, stop voting for it every 25 years. Let's just make it permanent and then let's just move on.
No, I think it was Reagan that it came up in his administration that he had to, sign off on it again and so on. And he didn't really want to do it, but there was enough pressure put on him.
Yeah, I think Reagan was I thought Bush was the last person.
Could be, but whatever it is, whoever it is, you're absolutely right. There's no reason on earth to do that.
More comments. I also feel disgusted by most of the Black community podcasters who didn't even see Nelson. Nelson and I are going to go from cousins to brother and sister here in a second, because literally Nelson says what I'm thinking. This bothered me so much during the campaign that Dr. West and Dr. Abdullah ran. I feel so disgusted by most of the Black community podcasters who did not care that Cornel West was running unless they needed him to boost their ditto. Yep. Ditto. Because some of them just had him on there, and some of them, I'm not naming names, Revolutionary Black Network, clown Dr. West, because see, I name call.
Go ahead. Why not?
Period. I don't do that. This group, no, I call you out because that's just, heck, I don't got 1,000 subscribers, so what I got to lose? But Nelson, you're exactly right. The Voters' Rights Act was not renewed, allowing for the 2020 gerrymandering of congressional districts. Yes, the Democrats, this is the party that couldn't even pass the something I thought, oh, they can't screw this up. There's no way. They got to get this right. Nope, wrong. Nope, I was wrong. Like, when I think the Democrats can't go any lower, they manage, here's what they do. They manage to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Like, victory's right there. Single payer health care, right there. Biden could have ordered everybody to be put on Medicaid. Every single member of this country could have been ordered by executive orders. Yes, they would have taken them to court, but oh well, at least you tried. No, what does he do? Knocks 25 million people off of Medicaid, and then said it's because COVID is over, and then tries to use COVID for student loan debt release.
Right. And child poverty rates increase, and sickness and illness increases beyond our imagination. You're right. But
it's like, wait a minute, people, don't you see they're here's what they're doing. They're playing in your face. They're playing right in your face, and you're just like, okay, but we don't have a choice. You have a choice. The Justice for All Party is your choice.
Agree.
That's what I want to say to people, and that's why I did this podcast, even though I kind of drug my feet on doing it, is because we have choices. We don't have to sit down and take what they're giving us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Agree. It'd be interesting to find out what Nelson thinks about that as well, his own question, but okay.
Along with educating Blacks about voting, we need education from how to break free from institutionalized voting. Well, okay, but that's a bigger discussion. I don't know if I agree with it or disagree, but I see where you're going. But two more questions, and I think because I'm taking up so much of your time, and I want to be respectful.
This is a joy. I can go on for hours, but I know we're not going to. But
because I basically, again, I was at a point after Dr. West lost. I literally woke up election day and said, "It's probably not going to happen." Because I was one of those ones. I drank the West Kool-Aid. I literally did. I thought, oh, well, Dr. West still, if everybody just writes his name in, it can still happen. And I woke up election day and I was like, okay, it's not going to happen. And I went into my little poo-poo. What could I have done?
Yeah.
When I think about what the Harris administration would have done, do I think that her administration would have fired almost 1 million federal workers? No. There's no way. I'm not going to think that. But do I think that she would have continued to fund wars? Yes, she literally said it with her own mouth.
Yeah.
Do I think that she would have lowered gas prices and food prices? No, I do not. I wonder, parts of me, I don't want to say I regret my vote for Dr. West, because I don't. I was going to vote for Dr. West no matter what. But I wonder, how do we move past people saying that, hey, this is your fault too because you didn't vote for Harris? That's the question. Because I'm getting a lot of that. It's like, oh, well, if you had just voted for Harris, she would have won.
Not your fault or anybody that didn't. It was, again, as you answered your own question there, there's a weak candidate, and the institution of the party perpetuated the same failed policies. And the real question that your viewers are raising here is, why do we keep doing the same thing over and over again
and expect different results? It's insanity. That's literally the definition of insanity.
Well, it is
the same thing over and over again, and you expect different results. You're not going to get anything different.
That's right. And take my word, because I've been around, again, since the 60s. Same thing we talked about then too. The same thing.
And I think that's the thing that it's the second reason I did this podcast. When I did the last, because I don't know if you ever watched my other podcast that led to this one. Congratulations to Dr. Cornel West, 47, President of the United States. That kind of led into this one, right? When I did the last episode of that one, I was like, well, no, like in October, I'm like, I'm done. I've done everything. I'm done and I'm finished. And
but wait a minute, look, Tracy, look at you. Look at, you're here. You're not.
No, but I'm getting somewhere. Okay. I was like, I'm done. I've done everything I do. I'm gonna pack this up and I'm just gonna go vote for Dr. West and forget about it, because this country, I was trying to figure out ways I can move to Cuba. Literally, I was like, okay, how can I move to Cuba, keep my United States citizenship so I could vote? And I couldn't figure out a way. And then people kept saying, hey, you got to keep this show going. And I'm like, well, how? Well, thanks to Israel that gave me the idea. Well, and others that said, no, you got to keep going, keep going, keep going. I think that's what we need to develop, right? A net, and I think the Justice for All Party is doing that. A group of people to say, hey, we know you're tired. We know it's hard. It's hard to get out and collect petitions. It's hard to raise money. It's hard to talk to people, especially during a presidential election, because you have the elitism of the two-party system that says they deserve to be there. They have a right to be there. They have a right to your vote. They don't have to earn it. They don't have to have policies, but you just vote for them because of whatever. And we need that network of people that says, you know what? It's okay. It's okay for you to feel down. It's okay for you to feel, depressed or whatever, but you got to keep getting back up. And that's what
keep on getting on. Yeah. Keep on keeping on.
Yeah. Another comment. It's so hard to get blacks to sign the petition for. It was. This is where I was like, she's so. Let me tell you something. I hope you got your T-shirt in the mail. It was so hard to get blacks to sign a petition for Dr. West because people are really stuck on the two-party system. This should be addressed now, but how? I don't know how. I know my channel has done a form, and maybe I should do that, of just black voters. It's like, why do y'all vote? Thank you. You just gave me an idea for a podcast. You just gave me an idea for a podcast. It's like, why do you keep voting for them? They're not doing anything. You just gave me. Thank you. See, this is why I love my viewers, right? All 5 of you, because it's about 5, 6 people watching. I don't know. Literally, just gave me that idea, because we have to change what you said, change the narrative. Say, hey, look, Dr. West has been advocating for the black community and larger communities in general. He has not changed his message at all in the 50 plus years that he's been doing this. The Justice for All Party stands on that foundation. This is why you should move. Thank you. Listen, you just gave me an idea. Yeah. See, that's what I love about you guys. You give me ideas and like, yep, now I'm going to do it.
Give and you'll get back. No, but it's not the black church or listen, there's a lot. I know there's a lot of, I tried to have did have a couple of events for him and so on. And many of his friends, many people that he has talked to and had, and done all kinds of things for and been at events and so on, but would not, vote for him. So it's again, it's the fear, it's this distorted narrative. But you know what? Catastrophe cannot have the final word. And that's something he often mentions. I think that's something to keep in mind. We're in tough times, but we're going to get out of it through radical love and solidarity and some hard work, because the message is true. And radical love will carry the day. We really have to. And you exhibit it so well and so strongly. And keep on.
I wish I could. I would say I wish I was a better communicator, because there's so much to be said about, like you said, radical love. That's never talked about. I don't want to do it to where like Kamala Harris or Kamala, because they get real trippy about how you pronounce her name. So I better make sure I get it right, because apparently I'm supposed to care. Like, you responsible for killing 40,000 Palestinians, and I'm supposed to pronounce your name right? I don't think so. But anyway, she ran this whole joy campaign. I don't want us to get to that portion. I don't think we are. We can say, hey, we demonstrate radical love by calling for single-payer health care. We demonstrate radical love by calling for $27 minimum wage. We demonstrate it. So definitely taking that message of radical love and saying, this is how we do it.
In policies, absolutely. But also as individuals, as best we can, reaching out to people who disagree with us very vigorously and it's difficult also to do that and to realize the hurts and traumas that all of us have, some more than others, absolutely, but we're all carrying around a lot of it.
Yeah.
So it's hard to reach across the aisle here. It's very difficult. Trump is an extraordinarily damaged, emotionally damaged human being. That doesn't excuse what he's trying to do, but to not realize that is missing part of the narrative because we try not to perpetuate his destructiveness. We do it in institutions. We put people in prison and they come out worse than ever. I've been working with people, James Gilligan and Bandy Lee, who have been able to reduce the violence within prisons through education and so on. I won't get into that right now, but and Cornell's taught in prison for 40 years. So we can't lose heart, even in the face of very, very emotionally disturbed individuals.
And he is, like I said,
Yeah.
I want send my condolences because you actually watched that State of the. I was like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna talk about because I can't with him. I literally can't. I'm just like watching Biden because I used to do that. Like every time the president will make a presidential, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be on it. No,
Well,
drop
you
that
know what?
policy real quick. I was like, bro, that's it.
You have to even give me more credit because I'm the type of, I don't know, you can maybe tell by my emotion. I talk back to the TV. I yell at it. I said, my wife, who's also, she's Canadian, much more peaceful, much more. So, no, we can't. She doesn't go for that. So I had to control my responses. I'm making a little joke here. But I wanted to see what this guy is talking about. I forced myself to do this.
Yeah, because I was like, ooh, no. I thought, okay, I'll go back.
You got to know your enemy. You got to know what they're saying.
You do, but listen to him talk. It's like you're right in one sense. He does know how to talk in the common language. He does that a lot better than some of our politicians. He knows how to do that.
Who can you point to that can speak like him in that way to the masses? I mean, Bernie is sort of stiff. I mean, Jesse Jackson was very good. I mean, that was back in the 80s and so, but we haven't had Reagan also, that's on the right again. But who among
right? Who's on the Democratic side that doesn't use big like? Yeah, you talking about stuff we don't. I mean, we know,
Yeah.
but you're exactly right. But who?
Bobby Kennedy was the white politician that captured our hearts. The white politician.
I would say Obama, but he's
no. Yeah, Obama he had the oration, but man, his policies did not match that, and we expected too much. So much. He was a centrist.
He was a Republican to me.
Okay, there you go.
Then I look at it and I'm like, I voted for this guy twice. For what reason? I know the reason, and people not gonna like me for saying it, but I know why I voted for him.
All right, well,
I know exactly why.
Tell us.
It's because he's black. That's what I can't think of any other reason why me would say that, because I'm like, he didn't codify Roe v. Wade. He did drone strikes. He bailed out the bank. I'm like, he literally did nothing to.
And he was non-threatening.
That's it. He was non-threatening.
Close your eyes. Was this a white guy speaking? He had a way of presenting the American dream and he was very articulate, but you're right. His policies didn't match that.
None of them. And then I'm like, yeah, I got to come up with something, because when I look at it, I'm like, yeah, okay.
The other guy, and Clinton was another one.
Now Clinton, I'm like,
but he's made something like $150 million since he's been president. I mean, and Obama's well on his way to busting $100 million. I think he just got a big fancy house
In the
Park
world,
Virginia.
yeah, in the world of Jimmy Carter's, all we get are Barack Obama's and Bill
There you
Clinton's.
go. I was going to bring them.
I was gonna say, I'm like, whether you like Jimmy Carter or not, hey, at least he did like try to do something like after he left the presidency. He didn't start like some terrible podcast or a foundation that let me shut up. That's not what
Library. Yeah, absolutely.
Kick people out of their houses to start a library. Really? That's really what you're gonna do, Obama? You really gonna do that? Okay, whatever. But you know, people tend to excuse what's on their side, right? I think I asked on my Facebook page, you know, where was this outrage when Biden was cutting Medicaid in terms of Medicaid cuts that are coming? Crickets.
You're right. Oh, if I just made to back you up on this, and how Black community responded when Dr. West took the courageous position of calling out what Obama was doing.
Oh, he got, and I was one. That's why the first thing, yeah, when Dr. West appeared on my show the first time, I said I should have said I owe you an apology. I called Dr. West every derogatory name that you could think of when a Black person sells out. I dropped an Uncle Tom reference, a C reference. I did, and it's because I was conditioned, like I was propagandized. And now that I'm looking, I think a lot more Black people realizing, you know what? Dr. West was right, which is why they're not voting Democrat. We just got to get them to stop voting for Republicans because that's literally the same thing. So yeah, we need to get them to our side. They've realized the Democratic Party is garbage. Now we got to get them to realize, hey, Republicans, they're garbage too.
That's the key question that you're pointing out. How do we do that? What ways that we can take that energy and put it into this sort of movement? Absolutely. That's the question.
And I'm not the only one that voted for him because he was Black. I think that's literally the reason. I am a civil rights baby. Nothing has happened since then. I also voted for Obama because he's Black. Okay, so I'm not by myself. We can't afford to waste our votes anymore. It's a sad situation right now. Absolutely. I meant to say nothing has happened since then. It hasn't. I keep asking Democrats this one question. What has the Democratic Party done for Black people specifically since the Voters' Rights Act and since the Civil Rights Act? Will Affordable Care Act, no, that benefited, which it really didn't. It benefited it. No, I said specifically. He did DACA and he did gay marriage. Now, I'm not saying that he shouldn't have done those things, but I'm saying, hey, you got 95% of the Black vote. Which, by the way, the Democrats, y'all never gonna see them numbers ever. You might as well kiss them numbers goodbye because you never, ever are gonna get 95% of the Black vote ever again.
And he bailed out Wall Street. And the majority of people during the stock crisis were for him. He didn't do right by the masses of people. He could have been our greatest president if he did that. He didn't bail them out. He bailed out Wall Street. Again, the old trickle-down stuff. That Trump
exactly, but you can't it's different when you criticize Obama, right? Because you're a typical white guy. It's a whole different situation when Dr. West does it.
Yeah, no.
Because we have this thing in the Black community. You can't criticize a Black person. Yes, you can, but that's our mentality. No, hear me out. That's our mentality. You know, we were literally raised not to do that.
Yeah.
We were raised like you don't publicly, like if you're going to criticize them, you do it amongst your own. You don't take your criticism outside the group.
I agree. Jews do that too. All right. So let me just clue you in. I don't know. Other groups probably do it, but yeah. And it's stupid. It's
absolutely stupid, but that's how we were raised to do that. Like I was raised, you do not criticize a Black politician. Not a Black politician. You don't criticize leadership.
Yeah.
Well, yes, you do. Absolutely. I'm going to criticize you. I'm gonna give you side eye all day. I don't know if you know what side eye is, but I'm gonna give you side eye. You mess with my community, I'm gonna give you side eye because that's what you deserve. And that's what Obama gave us. But we were conditioned. You don't criticize him, because when you criticize him, you're criticizing Dr. King, you're criticizing Malcolm X, you're criticizing all of us. Well, he didn't represent all of us. That was Dr. West's point of making the criticism, which he should have made, and he was correct in making. But when you've been indoctrinated to say, oh, well, hands off because he's Black, where do we expect to get to?
So Blacks and Jews need to evolve here as a group to realize that we can criticize our own people. And yeah, so let me leave it at that.
And we can do it publicly. That does not mean that I criticize Obama that I'm anti-Black. I am not anti-Black when I say, hey, he shouldn't have bailed out the banks. That was the wrong move to make. Instead of bailing out the banks, he should have bailed out Americans. I don't know this man. He could be the nicest person ever. Don't think so because of some of the other things he said. But me criticizing does not make me less Black.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the apology that I should have given Dr. West the first or second time, and I didn't, because I was so like propagandized. Like I was just like, you can't do this. He's representative of all Black people. No, he's not.
You could be more right. I'm doing a show this coming week. One of the guests is Peter Beinart, whose book, Being Jewish After the Destruction of Gaza. Okay, now he is a proud, but he cannot get that book or an event in any synagogue in New York City. That's outrageous. That's outrageous. You can criticize that policy. You are not some self-hating or anti-Semitic Jew here, okay? But the rabbis won't let him in, and that's horrible. But it's the same thing. Well, you don't criticize us in front of others. And so, yes, you do. And so I'm giving him that forum. And he's actually going to be in dialogue with, but that's a whole other, with the Israeli professor whose class was disrupted at Columbia, who was teaching a course on Israel history. So I think it's important for us to talk to each other. I've had people on the show, I won't go into it, but I think it's very good to have people from widely different viewpoints on and let them hash it out. Let's see what common ground, because we have more common ground than we know. And that's what we need to do, I think, in this party, in this movement.
Absolutely. And we're almost to the 1 hour and 30-minute mark. I did not think that we was going to be talking all day like this, but we've had a really good conversation. But I'm going to make this the very last question.
Okay.
If you were talking to a regular person, and I say regular, they got a regular 9-to-5 job. They're not an academic. They're not an intellectual. They're just Joe Q. Public or Josephine Public.
Yeah.
And you were trying to talk them into supporting the Justice for All party. What one thing would you tell them?
Check this out. This is what humankind should be about. Peace, love, the search for truth, respect for all, and the policies that will promote that. We have so much to gain from that. We are losing. So that's not one word.
I know. I'm like, one thing.
One thing is, it's the right thing to do. Check what this party stands for. It can bring us together as human beings in a way that no one else can, and no other party out there can do.
Yeah, and I know I'm asking a very minimal question, but I'm just like, one thing. Don't go into the whole platform, but I would say I answer it this way. I answer my own question this way. I had a guest. Her name is Fatima. Fatima, if you're out there, hello. And she asked a very good question. It's like, how bad do you want it?
Yeah.
How bad do you want single payer health care? How bad do you want 27? How bad do you want it? You're fooling around with, you're literally supporting parties that play in your face. Don't let them play in your face anymore.
Right. Exactly. I learned from you on it. Thank you. What is going to be good for you? It will be good for you.
Yep. So I want to thank everybody for this exceptional conversation that I had. Just to remind you of some things here before we get going, remember to visit the Justice for All website at justiceforall.us. That is justiceforall.us. Learn about the platform, make a donation. Also, subscribe to this channel. We keep saying if we could get to 1,000, we can get the Justice for All message out there about this podcast. Share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, share it with your dog, your cat, the rats. Don't care. Just share it. Follow us on TikTok at the Justice is Here podcast. Someday I will figure out how to use TikTok for this podcast. Definitely follow us on the Justice is Here podcast on Blue Sky. Also on Instagram. Remember the Saturday Hangout, March the 22nd, and every fourth Saturday following, right after this show. Those of you that have already signed up, you have your link. We'll come on here the 22nd. We'll do our show. We'll get in there. We'll discuss, debate, and organize. Keep that in mind. Sign up for that. And finally, mark your calendars. April the 19th, 2025, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Song Association fundraiser for the Team Tracy Justice for All team. I'm sponsoring a fundraiser. It will be via Zoom. So remember to make your contribution. We're going to have so much fun. You do not have to be a great thinker to participate, but we're just going to have some fun that evening. Thank you all for joining in, and we're going to let Nelson have the last word. Thank you, Jim and Tracy. You're welcome, cousin Nelson.
Thank you, Nelson.
Remember to tune in tomorrow. I got 2 interviews tomorrow, back to back. 2 o'clock p.m. I will be talking about the modern monetary theory. Some great things that I learned that I think everybody should know about. And then 6 o'clock p.m., I will be talking to Jesse Brown, city councilman for the city of Indianapolis. We're going to keep it local for that show, but I'm pretty sure the issues he'll be talking about, everybody across the nation has submitted them or experienced them. Jim, I thank you for coming on.
It's been my pleasure and joy and blessing. I love what you're doing. I love your energy. It's terrific what you're doing. I'm going to see you on the Radical Imagination. We'll set up a date.
Oh, yes. Please make sure that I don't know how I feel about being interviewed because I'm so used to doing the interviews, but I'm pretty sure I'll do okay.
I know you. Believe me.
Yeah. So I'm going to take us down, do the outro, but remember, most importantly, share this podcast. Share. Our views have been kind of down in the past couple of weeks. We need to get them back up into that 300 and 400 views. So share this podcast. I'm taking us down. I'll see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Tracy.